Hey, Ravine, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
So today we're going to be looking at something pretty intense.
Yeah.
Well, one of our listeners wrote in about this,
Okay.
saying that they had seen an article uh, about a truck attack in New Orleans
Right.
and wanted to know more about it.
Wow. Yeah, that's
So,
that's a heavy one.
yeah, it is. I, I think we should take a look at it.
For sure. For sure.
So the article is called New Orleans Truck Attack. FBI confirms ISIS flag on vehicle. So right off the bat, pretty
Yeah.
pretty intense.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess maybe we should just jump right in.
Yeah, let's get into it.
I mean that image right there,
Hmm.
the ISIS flag on a vehicle, like that's
Yeah.
pretty scary.
For sure.
You- you-
I mean that's an image that I think for a lot of people is going to bring up a lot of fear.
Yeah.
And for good reason, I
Mm.
think. ISIS is a group that has committed really horrific acts of violence. Yeah.
And they've been in the news a lot over the past 10 years or so.
Right.
And so seeing that flag connected with an attack here in the U.S., I think is going to be
Yeah.
really unsettling for a lot of people.
Absolutely. I mean, are we looking at like a coordinated terrorist attack here?
That's the big question, right? I mean, and that's what investigators are going to be trying to figure out.
Right.
Is this a lone wolf situation or is this part of something bigger?
Right. And, obviously we don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
But what do we know from the article? Like, what else do we know about the attack?
So it sounds like the attack involved a truck driving into a crowd of people.
Right.
And there were a number of casualties.
Yeah.
And, beyond that, we don't have a whole lot of details.
Right.
The investigation is still ongoing.
Yeah.
But, the fact that the FBI has confirmed the presence of the ISIS flag is a pretty big deal.
Right.
That's not something that they would do lightly. Yeah. So knowing this, I mean, how can we be prepared?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is that there's no way to completely eliminate the risk of terrorism.
Right.
But there are things that we can do to make ourselves less vulnerable.
Okay.
One of the most important things is to be aware of our surroundings.
Okay.
Pay attention to what's going on around us. And if we see something that seems out of place or suspicious, we should report it to the authorities.
Right.
It's also important to be prepared for the possibility of an attack.
Okay.
Have a plan for what we would do in an emergency situation.
Yeah.
Where the exits are in our building, know how to contact emergency services, things like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's easy to think that this will never happen to me.
For sure.
But, we have to, it's important to be prepared.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is that, we have to remember that we're not in this alone. We're part of a community and we need to look out for each other.
Right.
If we see someone who's struggling or who looks like they might be in trouble, we should reach out to them.
Right.
We should offer help.
Yeah. And, I think that's what's so scary about this attack.
Right.
It feels so random.
Yeah.
It could have happened to anyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's what ISIS is trying to do.
Yeah.
They're trying to create a climate of fear. They're trying to make us feel like we're not safe anywhere.
Right. And that we're all potential targets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important that we don't let them win.
Right.
We need to stand together.
Yeah.
We need to be strong.
Right.
And we need to show them that we're not going to be terrorized.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah.
So to recap, what we have here is a truck attack in New Orleans.
Right.
The FBI has confirmed that there was an ISIS flag on the vehicle. And so, that's obviously very concerning.
Yeah, absolutely.
It raises a lot of questions about the motives behind the attack.
Right.
And, whether this was a lone wolf attack or part of something larger.
Right.
And so, the investigation is still ongoing.
Yeah.
But, in the meantime, we just need to be vigilant.
For sure.
We need to be aware of our surroundings and we need to report anything that seems suspicious to the authorities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, and be prepared.
Yeah.
Have a plan for what you would do in an emergency.
Yeah. And, I think, one thing that I'm thinking about is how do events like this, regardless of the ultimate findings, like how do they shape our perception of safety in everyday life?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think it's something that we all have to grapple with.
Right.
On the one hand, we don't want to live in fear.
Right.
We don't want to let the terrorists win. But on the other hand, we also need to be realistic about the threats that we face.
Right.
And we need to take steps to protect ourselves and our loved ones.
Right.
And so, it's a delicate balance.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We encourage you to stay informed and engage in thoughtful discussions about these critical issues.
Absolutely.
Remember, knowledge is our most powerful tool in navigating an increasingly complex world.
That's right.
So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.